Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Anatomia Extinction, a Japanese horror movie from 1995, and this was directed by Yoshihiro Nishimura, who is most well known for his more recent J-Gore films, as I call them, such as Tokyo Gore Police, which came out in 2008, after this movie. And then involved characters known as engineers, genetically modified supercriminals who can transform open body wounds into flesh metal weaponry. Now, Anatomia Extinction is kind of a low-budget precursor to Tokyo Gore Police, and this came out 13 years prior to it. And it does have some similarities, but it has an even greater emphasis on horror instead of action. Alright, so a man stands out from the crowd with his bleached blonde hair and disdain for the overflow of humans in Tokyo. Physically sick and tired of being surrounded, the man's only respite is the warm embrace of a sex worker. However, when the man is targeted by a serial killer known as the Engineer, he is given a choice: die by his hand or join him in murdering every last one of the humans he can't stand. Both a pointed protest to Japan's raging overpopulation problem and a superb addition to the body horror subgenre, Nishimura's film is overflowing with blue and reddish hues, queasy practical gore effects, and a capsule of Tokyo in the mid-1990s. So after reading that plot synopsis, I found it somewhat ironic that overpopulation was considered a problem back in 1995. Yet nowadays, in 2025, all I hear about is Japan's birth rate crisis and problems with depopulation into the future. But in any case, overpopulation is definitely a sub-theme to this film. For example, the first few scenes have overcapacity statistics on the Tokyo subway lines and roads. It's just overflowing with so many people, the infrastructure can't service everyone efficiently anymore. And they do discuss an overcapacity of the aging Japanese population, which does have a connection to birth rate declines in some ways when you're thinking about funding, Social Security and whatever programs they have, right? So yeah, pretty interesting. And then later on, there's some commentary about overcrowding and experiments with rats that are jam-packed together. So I wouldn't say that this movie is like an in-depth exploration of this theme, but it's certainly touched upon throughout the film. There's really not a whole lot of detailed character development in here or a complex story, pretty basic stuff. And some of this is due to the runtime. The runtime is only about 50 minutes long, so it's a little bit under 1 hour in length. So you could tell they were basically focusing on the scares and just establishing the themes. Now, the plot synopsis does mention a capsule of Tokyo in the 1990s. And yes, there are multiple shots, many shots of Shinjuku in this film. And Shinjuku is a special ward within the metropolis of Tokyo. And there are a significant, I would say handful, even more than that, of Japanese movies that I've seen that use Shinjuku as a filming ground. The Takashi Shimizu film Marabito is one example, as well as a handful of the Yakuza films that I recently covered in that V Cinema Blu-ray box set from Arrow Video. So yeah, it's nice to see this spot showcased in films, and it's a spot that I visit fairly often when I'm on vacation. But Anatomia Extinction does showcase Shinjuku from the 1990s, because that's when this film was made. And it uses a high contrast cinematography, so the nighttime lights glow quite nicely. So production values here, even though it's very low budget, it looks pretty good. And you get a nice feel for Japan's urban atmosphere. Lots of deep lighting, lots of blue and red shading in this, lighting and stuff like that, which is atmospheric. Now, Tokyo Gore Police was not exactly a big budget production, but Anatomia Extinction is most certainly micro-budget. Okay, so the production values are very limited in terms of, I guess, the money they spent on it. But, as I mentioned, the film looks pretty good for its budget and time period. So, but you need to go into this movie with that expectation, because if you've seen Tokyo Gore Police and you're expecting fountains of blood and and tons of action, you will be disappointed. This is more of like a student film in some respects, and there are some similar horror concepts and scenes that would later be expanded in Tokyo Gore Police. But if you're into low-budget movies with body horror imagery, this is you might enjoy this. The killers have like tumors inside of them, and that results in some mutated body weaponry, I guess I would describe it as, and that's quite enjoyable to watch. There are a few effective bits of gore and bloody violence. Not a ton, but it's in here. And then Anatomia Extinction is like a more serious version of Tokyo Gore Police. Less black humor. There's some stuff. You still get some of the RoboCop influences, like the news bulletins and stuff like that. There's some black humor in those and stuff like that. But and a few of the scenes have some of that vibe, that RoboCop vibe going for it. But there's definitely less humor in this, and it's actually kind of creepy. It's kind of a creepy movie. The style seems influenced by Shinya Tsukamoto's Tetsuo the Iron Man at times, and there's a brief nod to Death Race 2000 in this as well. So there's a lot of influences that they're pulling from in this. A few scenes are shot similarly to Tetsuo as well, and you will notice them. That's a good thing. So I think, this is a pretty cool little movie. If you enjoy low-budget horror, I recommend this. And, it did get a tricked-out Blu-ray release from Error 4444 a while back. That release is out of print, but I think there's a standard edition still available on Diabolique DVD on that website. And also you can find it streaming on Daily Motion. So let me know what you think about this one. I think, I like low-budget horror films from Japan, so this one scratched the itch quite well. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.